She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She was magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is magic.
Welcome to Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse for another exuberating and informative time talking about money and your financial freedom. We are being broadcast through Soul City Broadcasting, and also we are broadcast through WHCR 90.3 FM, wonderful station. So we are all live here talking about finance and money and how money works. So today, before anything, I wanted to just say to everyone, I'm looking at the market. And so right now we closed this market, the Dow Jones. Now I'm going to talk about the Dow Jones, what it means. That's 30 major companies that they've chosen to track every day, every year. And right now the Dow is down, which means those 30 companies are down by 1,862 points. Now, also the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, is down. Everything's down. We are in a situation in this country of a lot of adversity. And again, the market is just as emotional as we are. We get emotional over issues that are coming up and what's happening, and rightfully so, because our world is changing. We witnessed murders, snuffing of individuals. This is something that is just not acceptable in our world, you know? And so it's not just people of color who are upset about this. It is also people around the world. So this is a world influence that is taking place. And it's sort of sad because I, as a woman of color who's been in the financial service industry, which has been the good old boys club for years, have experienced many of types of discrimination. And not happy with it, put it back to the back and said, step forward, because that's how we operate. But the real situation is that it doesn't go away. And when we see these things happening, we've just had enough. And so it's exemplary of what the market shows is that there's a lot of unhappy people. We still have a pandemic. We have the coronavirus situation. New York just popped up of starting to close. We're in phase 1, which didn't include the financial service industry. And hopefully that will be part of phase 2, which is supposed to take place on, I believe, the 22nd of June. May not, depending upon how people are reacting. And so I went to my office a couple of days ago, and it was disheartening. I went down there, and everything was boarded up, and people were protesting, and rightfully so, I'm going to say, because they've got to hear the voices of the people. This is not just the voices of the Black people, it's the voices of the people. We're tired. We're tired of being mistreated and paying taxes and not being represented properly. So I'm not on a political realm, I'm just on a life realm. And so my thing is that we have to, like we had last week with Mr. Sean Rochester, the Black tax. My thing is that we have to become aware financially. We have to become strong financially. We have to learn how money works. We have to have financial literacy in this country. And so, because the market is down, do not fret. Um, do not be upset. Don't close out all your accounts, because if you close it out, then you actually have taken a loss in the market. Please know that. But in addition to it, it's also a great opportunity for some people to get in. It's like double dutch. When do you get in? Market's down. Buy low, sell high. So there's opportunities there. Of course, you need to sit with a financial advisor to make that determination of what you're doing. A lot of people are jumping into all sorts of types of investments and they haven't even gotten their financial strategy put together. So to know whether they have discretionary income to be able to put this money out there, and how are they investing it? You need to sit with a financial advisor. I will say it time and time again. And if you can't find one that you feel trusted with, then what you need to do is you give us a call, at 646-375-2121. And let us know that you heard on Access Wealth Nation. And we'll assist you and try to help you to get to a financial advisor who will help you because of not how much money you have, because that's not important. You can have as little as $10 or you can have 10 million. You're still going to get serviced. That's what's important. And you will get a financial education. As you know, that's my biggest point. So today, when you're looking at the market, let me start off with some of the basics of what the market is. All right. When you invest in a stock, you are investing in a company or companies. And for that, if the company does well, you do well. If the company doesn't do well, you don't do so well. That doesn't mean that you have to jump ship from the company either. It might mean that the company's having tough times. Like here, people have closed businesses, haven't been able to generate revenue. So it's a rough time, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to bounce back. The market has consistently gone up. So it might take a dip because we've had those dips. We've had 1987. I was there on the market when the stock market crashed. We're up from there. Also, 2008, everybody panicked. We're up again. And now here, we're seeing the up and down taking place. And we have, in many ways, broken even. And now we're back again. We're seeing a downturn. It's a time that you can possibly, if you have a 401k plan, 403b, just keep going with it because you're buying low and you're selling high, and you're not selling at this point. And if you were ready to retire, you weren't supposed to be in the market anyway. This is not the time to do that. So your financial advisor would have advised you not to be in the market, probably coming out. That's what you should be doing. But if you're young and you're putting money in, it's something called dollar cost averaging. We had a show on that not too long ago on buying at different prices, buying low, buying middle, buying high, and you get the benefit of the average of the market. So that's what this is all about. Now, when you're investing in the stock market, there's also the bond. What is a bond? And a bond is basically a loan. It's called a debt instrument. And for that, you invest in the bond, be it the corporate bond or the treasury bond, where you're investing in the government, very, very low. But they're guaranteeing to pay you back your principal plus the interest, depending upon what the value of the bond is and when will it mature. Most investments have a mixture of both, which we call balance. And so you might have some stocks and you might have some bonds. And that's something that an investment advisor can sit with you and discuss with you and give you a good overview of where you need to be at this time. And so that being said, we have to get our financial literacy up. And of course, I always offer to you the opportunity to buy that, to not to buy, but to receive the How Money Works book, Stop Being a Sucker, which was, I've endorsed it with two of my partners. Tom Matthews and Steve Seabolt wrote it, and Andy Horner did the graphics in it. This book will take you all of maybe an hour to read, but the information is awesome, and it gives you the opportunity to learn the basics, because you need to know the basics so that you can move to the next level and start to really put your financial house in order. And that's so important. We've talked about the 7 milestones to financial freedom and independence. Well, the first line is to become financially literate. Last week we talked about the black tax, which was a phenomenal, I think was phenomenal. And I hope y'all, if you haven't heard it, go back and look at one of our last week's show to see that that book outlines why there's a racial wealth divide and how we got there, and how we need to get out of it. And we need to build our financial literacy. I know many of you out there are looking and you're saying, the average 66% of Americans don't understand basic compound interest. And so, because we don't understand it, or we don't like math, nobody has to like it. They don't have to believe in it. It's not a religion. You just got to know the basics. And so if that's the case, then there's ways of making it easier for you. And how do you do that? We have charts. And if you go to my site, I have a site that does the rule of 72 for you. But more so, what's important is that if you just get the basics and understand it, and everybody in this world needs to know how money works. It's just plain common sense. Unfortunately, it's not taught in the schools, and it should be, but it's not. So since it's not taught in the schools, we got to find ways by which we will educate ourselves. And so when we're dealing with this stock market and you have a market that's going up and down, up and down, up and down, and you need somebody to hold your hand, you need to have a financial advisor. You don't need an insurance agent, okay, who's going to sell you something. You need someone to advise you on what's going on, and that you have a picture of what your retirement will look like. And we talk about retirement. And that's another aspect of us preparing for our future, because we're going to live long. How are we going to live? That's so important. And so if we're living in a society of where we live long, Social Security probably won't be there for us, and neither will our pensions, because nobody knows about pensions. Dab a little bit, excuse me. And so if we don't have those things, we need to make sure that we are saving. And so we're going to talk a little bit about something that was discussed last week: legacy building. Legacy building is important. One generation needs to sacrifice so that the next generation won't have to struggle as much. And that can be done in many ways. We can utilize insurance. We can also utilize different types of investments. That's not it. It is the desire and the knowledge to know. And I always say is that Paris Hilton might know Conrad or know about Conrad Hilton, but she respects him a lot. Why? Because of the fact is that she has the opportunity to buy a $5,000 pocketbook because he was able to create that wealth, that legendary wealth for her. And so this is the thing, these are the things that are so important for us to concentrate on. Our generations to come are bright. We're seeing these young people out here. They're speaking about the changes that need to be taking place in this country. They're talking about, they're passionate. And so why not assist them that they have something that they can at least have to continue on. And we're going to talk about that definitely tonight. And it's I'm going to have to I got to see where, oh, he says share screen. Okay, I should have set this up before. And so we are going to talk about how we're going to talk about today's child, tomorrow's millionaire. And I'm going to see if I can do multi-sharing. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. No, we can't. Okay, so I'm going to, thank you so much. I'm going to open up with today's child, tomorrow's millionaire. And I'm hoping that that slide is there. Okay, here we go. And so I need to bring it up a little more. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about today's child, tomorrow's millionaire, and why that's so important. And we call this the $1 million baby, the gift of a future. Now, that is so important in today's world that we said. Now, of course, one thing we need to do as we're learning how money works, we need to include our children, because if they're going to receive the legacy, you need to make sure that they also understand that they're not to go out and just squander it. They're to make it multiply. So it's time to rethink how parents leave a legacy. And here it is. It's only 20% of children will receive an inheritance. So here we are in this world with multiples of dollars and money changing, and only 20% of children, and this was a research source done in Inheriting and Retiring Securely by UnitedIncome.com. And it says that $1 million baby is a common sense strategy that empowers families to create a legacy for their children without them having to be wealthy, because the reality is most of us are not that wealthy to be able to leave legacies. So we have to think about, how do we do this? Can we take a little bit of money, or will we be able to take a little money? Sometimes as little as $2 a day, $60 a month. Can you do that? Put that away for your child's future, not for necessarily their education, but it could be, because I don't believe that children should have to pay for their education. There's a site called Candid, which used to be Foundation Center for Research, and there are ways to find money for your education. I was told at a young age that you don't pay for the education because the schools get the benefit of saying what you've done and how you've created, and they make money off of that. And now today, a lot of children are waking up and they're saying, wait a minute, if I'm going to go to school, go to college online, why am I paying all this extra $50,000, $60,000 per semester? For what? So they're waking up, they're awake. So which legacy plan could be more realistic for you? Now, option one is that you leave each of your children $1 million inheritance from your personal savings. Let's go over to option two, because option one might be not for everybody, but you got to think about, when we talk about what could affect why you can't do option one right away or not at all. So, or is it better in option two, grow $1 million retirement for each child, starting with a small fraction of the amount when they're young? Could that be an option for you? And either option could create a strong legacy for your children. But option two might be a little bit more doable for parents today, I would say. So here's three realities, you got to think about that makes leaving $1 million inheritance kind of unlikely for so many parents. One is longevity. We do have that issue. We're living longer. You know, when you think about it, so many people are living so much longer that we now have over 127,000 um, people who are over the age of 100. So it's a reality that, or a possibility that because living longer means parents will need their own money to fund their lengthy retirement. Then here comes the cruncher, which is medical bills. The average retiree will spend 122,000 on medical care from the age of 70 to the end of their life. There's another problem here because the medical industry goes on and on and on. And so if you have a little bit of money and then you're trying to take care of your medical bills, then you may not be able to leave anything because the medical bills eat it up. And then here comes long-term care. Now, long-term care in today's world is a lot different than yesteryear. We used to we used to think, well, long-term care only meant for the very old or aging, or those who we would see, aunt and uncles. They might not remember everything, right? But the average person would be around their 60s, 70s year old, and they were feeling like, they can keep them at home for a while. And then nowadays, 60, 70, and 80 is running around driving cars and running around, but 70% of people over the age of 65 will need some type of long-term care services or support. That might mean that they get to stay at home, but they may need help, maybe cooking or maybe getting dressed or maybe going shopping, getting to the doctor. They're going to need that, and which cost anywhere from $70,000 to over $390,000 based on an average life of 3.9 years in long-term care need. That's a lot of money. So that will impede. Those are the three things that can hold up from people being able to leave an inheritance, especially if they have not been saving properly or towards it. Now, the book says that stop being a sucker. So let's talk about suckers. I know people don't like that word sucker, and here in New York, that's fighting words. But the thing is that, yeah, we've been kind of suckered. And back in the day, a few months ago, we used to could go into the bank and we look at the front where the teller was, and you look to your left and you look to your right, and what do you see? Lollipops. Suckers. And a lot of them used to be dum-dums, So they're kind of telling you what they think about you. We done talked about this regarding how much interest you're getting on your money and how much money they're making off of you. So the sucker says how they think. The sucker who won't even have enough money of their own for their own retirement hopes in vain. Keep hope alive, to leave their children a small inheritance. So just, I can leave them, $2,000 maybe or something. That's not going to be enough. Then you have versus how smart parents think. The wealthy remove the need for an inheritance by transforming their children's early years into earning years. Well, what does that mean? That means that they're going to put money away when the child is young and let it grow, and build up for them. So common sense that could be worth over like $1 million to a child is that from the time the child is born, then they're growing up, they go to college, they get their job, they create their own family, and to their retirement to age 67. And in today's world, they're talking about People are going to be retiring in their 70s because they can. You know, I think early the better. When I meet up with folks, they tell me all the time they want to retire early, you know, so that they can enjoy the retirement. But you don't want to retire without a good plan. So since it's so hard to leave an inheritance today, why not use the greatest financial asset a child has to build the foundation for their retirement income? Do something for them, leave them a legacy so that they can have, because generally speaking, right now with what we've had with COVID-19 and the CARES Act, stimulus, think about where some of this money is coming from. Now, some are saying it's just from the government printing up money, which means that we're affected by inflation, our buying power of our money. And some are saying they're using some of the Social Security funds. Well, if either one is taking place, we still need to do something for ourselves. Yes, yes, yes. And so, if the time is coming where we have to do for ourselves, and Social Security might not be here because it's now stated originally Social Security was going to last till 2035, and now they're talking that it might only last till 2029, and that's only 9 years from now. So we need to see, but not rely upon Social Security, because that's not enough anyway. The average Social Security check is somewhere around about $1,200 a month. You know, in some states that'd be really good. In New York, that's not good. That's not helping, because that's only going to supplement possibly a small apartment. So time is important, and time allows you to put smaller amounts away. And so there are three money concepts that we have to pay attention to when we're talking about the $1 million baby strategy. And one is compound interest, which is the rule of 72. How is my money going to double? Now, we know if we're only getting 1% on our money, I mean, most of y'all know the answer is that we get 1%, 1 divided into 72. Oh my God, in 72 years, that baby will only have double the amount. So if you put away $1, there's $2 in 72 years. That's not going to help any. So we have to make sure that we're getting more money growth on our dollar. And usually on an average in the market is somewhere around about 9% that we can get on our money. But we got to be long-term ranging instead of short-term visioning. Got to think long-term. And so when we're talking about putting away for a child, a baby, we're thinking not just, oh, it's going to be 5-6 years. We're talking about 60 years for that child to be able to utilize that money and create a legacy. Time value of money. Money saved today is worth more than money saved tomorrow. So the thing is that we do have to look at how our money is growing and where do we place it, and what part does inflation play into this? Because today what we have is $20 today is definitely going to be worth more than 20 years from now, $20. Just like 10 years ago, if you had a $20 bill and you went to the store, you probably could buy some groceries with it. Today with $20, you're not getting anything. And as I always say, don't buy no meat, because that's it. So time value of money is important. And then you do all of this, you have to safeguard the money from being used, and also until the future and you might use what we call a living trust. This way, you as parents will own the money, control the money, and it can't be used until it's released through a trust. And even then, we might want to say, instead of generating and just throwing a lump sum of $1 million to a child or to children, you might want to set it up so that it'll come bit by bit, year by year. And then you might even want to put some stipulations on it that they at least sit with a financial advisor before they receive the money. Or you might want to put a stipulation that they can't get it unless they have a certificate of higher learning or sorts of things. I've seen so many things done. So the true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. That was done by Nelson Henderson. And it's a statement that's powerful because you need to plant something that will last forever, you know. So, could you save $1 million for your child? Let's take a look at this. And so let's consider two hypotheticals. We've got two people here. We've got Dana and Hector. These are two characters out of the How Money Works book. And let's look at Dana first. When we look at Dana, what if you put away $13,000 for each of your children when they were born? Now, I can't say everybody can do that, but I know we can put some lump sums away. Why? Because we spend an awful lot of money on those baby showers, and the child can't wear the clothes, they can't wear the shoes, they don't play with the toys, they play with the box rather than the toys. Come on. But what would they love if they knew that they had this money put aside for them or something was put aside for them? They won't realize it now. They don't even understand that the baby shower, what's going on there. The key is that you're putting it away. So what we're going to assume is a one-time lump sum of $13,000 put away. The time frame is that it will grow for 67 years, starting at birth. And then in time frame 2, we're going to cut it shorter by starting it later. And let's see the difference behind it. Now, this is with an assumption. And again, this is just an illustration and hypothetical. But it's saying that if you assumed an interest rate of 6.5%, which is less than what the market has been doing over years, compounded monthly, what would that look like? So let's look at that. Here's Dana, time frame 1. She put at the beginning of her child's birth $13,000 away. And if we did the mathematics on it, the child at 67 would have $1,442,000. Not bad, right? Now, if we did the same thing where we started, she starts and she says, I got this to do, we got I got this. I can't put away the 13,000 until the child is 18 years old. Well, you put the money away when the child is 18, but look at the difference in the time what that meant as far as the results. $311,486. That's what's left at age 67. Now, I won't poo-poo this because at least she did something. But the reality of it is that if you start earlier, and this is on anything that you want to accomplish, start now, because when you wait, it takes away from the time to grow. Now let's take a look at Hector. Hector, still the same time, 67 years. But Hector started off with 2,500, which may be a little bit more doable. And then for 4 years, Hector put away $250 per month. That grows at birth, from birth to age 67 for his child. Wow, there's $1,008,059 that's in the account for that child. And mostly when you have that type of money, you'll take about 4% of that every year, depending upon what type of investment it's in. And that's going to be about $40,000 coming out every year. How many of us would love to have had that? or have that now where someone put away money for us, and by the time we reach 67 years old, we've got like $40,000, and especially if it could be tax free. Okay, so let's take a look now at what happens if Hector waits until the child is 18. Doing the same thing, putting away $250 per month for 4 years, and that grows from age 18 to 67. There's 313,000 left. That's what for those 49 years. So during that time, the money is growing in this hypothetical, but unfortunately, it's not enough. And so it's a lot less, even if the child takes 10%, then it's only going to last for a short period of time, and probably not for the child's lifetime. So what I wanted to do is to show you something that's very powerful. The difference between, and I'll come back to this, I think I can only share it one time. And so the difference between tax now, tax later, or tax never. Now, tax now means like your stocks, your bonds, your savings account, all those things. I'm getting ready to share again. I hope y'all are following me. And I'm going to do, there we go. And what happens is tax now, those are all the things that as you accrue interest and you grow, those things are going to be taxed. So Uncle Sam, if you earn a certain amount, Uncle Sam, and here in New York, Uncle de Blasio and Uncle Cuomo are all going to get a piece of this. Okay, so as it's growing, so it's going to cut down on how much you will be able to grow, how your money will grow. Then there's tax later. Okay, so that means I'm going to grow the money and I'm not going to pay taxes on it, which is like our 401k, our 403bs, our tax annuities. We also have tax thrift savings plans for people who work for the government. Your traditional IRA, those things are taxed later. And I like to liken that to the fact we talk about the fact that we have, if we were farmers, would we want to pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? Okay, and that's the best analogy I ever heard, so I use it a lot. Well, I'd rather pay taxes on the seed because the seed is less. But in this case, we're paying taxes on the harvest because the seed, we're not paying any taxes and it's growing. And then for your 401ks and all those tax programs that are out there, you're going to have to pay taxes later on them. And so we're all assuming that our tax brackets will be less when we get older. Talk to a lot of my clients. That's not the case. I remember I had a client, one of my tax clients came in and she turned 70 years old and she said, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to miss you so much because now I don't have to do taxes anymore." And I said, "Did you lose all of your money? Are you broke? What's the deal?" And so she's like, "No, but when you turn 70, you don't have to pay taxes anymore." And I said, "Oh, really?" And so I showed her, and yes, she did. And not only that, but now we have to do the world of estimated taxes. So again, let me note, if you have any questions, feel free to ask as I'm going through this. I'm hoping you're learning something. And I'm hoping that the people who have children out there and also the grandparents that are out there, if you want to do something to build a legacy, please, you need to get started. And please feel free to reach out to me. You can go to Anaj Enterprises Inc. at Gmail and send us a little note. If you want the book, you can go to Anaj Enterprises Inc. again and just say, "I listened to you on Access Wealth Nation and I want the book and I want the free financial analysis. I want to get my house in order." And those of you who have been hit with COVID and don't have your job has slowed up or no started again, you need to sit with somebody immediately because you need some of the facets of a budget. Look at what you have left as far as proper protection. Make sure that you've got, if you had an emergency fund, how deep is it going to go? How long is it going to last? What do you have? You have to get a picture of where you're at, just to say. So I wanted to give a little show, and I'm hoping my producers can bring up my shared screen. Yeah, there we go. And so we got the world of what we call, this is a calculator, financial calculator that I use. And this, for this scenario, we have 9% interest rate annually. And this is just an illustration, but you're going to contribute. Now, in this case, we're contributing $250 a month for 60 years. So after you put the 2,500 in, you're going to put in for the next 60 years. And I think I'm going to lower that because, I can do that. We can add it for 40 years. So if the child, you put in till they're 40, and then after that, for the next 56 years, they're going to draw an income monthly. Okay, so I put my little calculator together. Let's put it to work. And let's see, what does that mean for that person monthly? And a matter of fact, I'd rather change the frequency because people like to see big numbers. Can't get them to understand that just means it breaks it down by 12. But if they could withdraw, here is what the results were. And this is calculating a tax bracket. Because as an accountant, I'm talking about taxes, is that 25% tax bracket, and maybe you'll be at 15% at the time you start to withdraw. But look what you're able to amass. If you had a taxable investment, now that means that you've got, that's your stocks, bonds, savings, CDs, investments, those things that are taxable now, you still annually, that child would receive $47,901 annually for the rest of their life, basically, because I said for 56 years. So if they're at age 40, you add on, they would be about 96 years old. So here, but tax deferred, meaning that the money is not taxable until they start to take money out of it. They would, and that's your 401ks, your annuity accounts, your 403bs. These things, that child would receive $87,987 every year. How many of us would love to get that, even in today's dollars and maybe in future dollars? Here's the powerful piece, and the only place you can really get this done is in the living benefit of life insurance. You also can do it by putting money away, but it probably work out a little less if you did a Roth IRA and the child was eligible for a Roth IRA. And there's some ways that the child could be qualified. Because some of you who have your own business, wouldn't it be wonderful that you could give your child an allowance for working for you instead of just working and giving them money to go out and spend? How about putting that money away and to a Roth IRA where they can take the money out and be able to utilize it for their retirement? But either way, those are the things. And of course, municipal bonds, but they don't generate that type of interest of 9%. But look at what the results is. It's $103,514 tax-free. No tax. That's what they would actualize. So that's the tax now, taxable, tax deferred later, or maybe tax never. So this is just one, but let's take another look. What happens is if we so move, let me view the report so that y'all can see what this report really looks like. And I think it's down here. You say that we keep doing this and add that money in. And as you see, In 39 years, there's over $1 million in the tax-free account and also the tax-deferred account. There's only 574,000 in the taxable account. But if we keep looking, by the time the child starts to taking money at age 67, they the both tax-free and the tax-deferred accounts are over $1 million still. Of course, with the taxable account, then you still have to pay taxes on it. So therefore, you've got the situation where they have less left in the account. But it's okay. Do something. But I just wanted you to see what that looked like as we look at the report. And this is what we do with clients to show them what they could do if they just did a little, and sometimes it means that you can't do a whole lot. You might not be able to do $250 a month. Maybe you can do $100 a month in contributions. Will the child have less? Yes, but they'll have something to work with. So we can calculate that and take a look. Yeah, these are some of the things. So instead, the child would have, instead of $100,000 tax-free annually, 45,000 tax-free. So we get to play with this. This is one of the tools that I use to find out what would work for my clients to be able to give their child something to work with for their future. It's so important that we do something. And so this site I go to all the time. It's got a funny name. It's called Dinky Town. But I use it all the time to show. And then from there, how much money can the child receive in the long run? Wouldn't you have loved to have someone do this for you? This would have been wonderful. So you can do it for yourself too, because I do this for folks when people are looking for what they're going to be like when they get ready to retire. But just to take a little peek, you can see that the more money that you put away and how you put it away, there'll be money left for that child to use that money for whatever they want. And they really, during the years, don't have to wait just until they're 59 and a half to take the money, unless it's in a retirement, what they call a qualified account, like a 401k, 403b, thrift savings. There are investments that you can be in that you can take money before 59 and a half. And so you might, but the key is that you need to have a trust, so that just we really plan on our children doing well. And we really believe that, our children will do right. But just in case, you need to make sure that you have a trust and a trustee to help protect you a bit, so that, or to protect the funds, so that that it's going in the right place or being used for the right place and not being used and squandered. Or like one of my clients said so well, I'm not putting all this money away for my daughter to be able to give it to somebody else and run off with it. I want to keep it in the family. So you get that opportunity to do that if you have a trust. But, some people say, oh, trust costs so much money. Not all the time. There's ways of getting this done. And that's why we have it set up with the $1 Million Baby, that you can have it set up in trust where the trust will own it. You can speak even from the grave how this child who's now an adult can receive their money. And so I'm going back to my presentation on the $1 Million. Thank you so much. And let's look at, so we've got Hector and Dana have gone through their savings. And, according to data from the United Nations, so this is worldwide, 250 children are born in this world every minute. Oh my goodness. Imagine how different their lives would be if every family created that kind of savings program for them that they couldn't touch until their retirement. And I love this statement when Dana says, wow, this would give children greater freedom to explore, fail, yes, because that happens, and find their purpose throughout their lives, all because their parents took this one revolutionary step for them. And Hector says, you start saving before you start walking. I love it. It's like every child can be born $1 million baby. I mean, it's an awesome thought. And that's why bringing financial literacy across this country where everybody, just like right now, there was a time prior to that many people couldn't read. Well, that's coming down to almost to nothing. No, everybody can read. And so now can you imagine an entire country where everybody understands how money works? That's our crusade. That's what we're about. That's what I'm looking to do is to make sure that everyone becomes financially literate so that we don't fall for the okey doke, that we be able to live in this country and not just survive. There's a difference. And so let's think about your legacy and explore the steps that would put $1 million baby strategy in place. How could you do that? It begins with a conversation, and you'll love because it's all about one of your absolute favorite subjects, your children or your grandchildren. So important. These are the things that are so important to our future and to make sure. So if you, for any reason, have any questions, you can call 646-375-2121. If you have questions right now, please pose them online. We'll be very willing. I'm willing to answer. And if it's not even on this topic, if you have something that you wanted to discuss and some topics that you really are concerned about. Also, I would love to hear from you. I've heard from a few folks who have said, they want to hear about a certain topic. Let me know. I'll be glad to talk about it and bring on even specialists. I have people from all different walks of life that I work with so that we can be able to assist you. Because if we don't do this now, when will we do it? And how can we do it? So, this has been really great. I'm hoping that you learned something from this. I hope that you get started, that the time is now. And even with the idea of the stimulus check, now I'm going to give a lesson here. The stimulus check, they think to stimulate the economy. And boy, did people, they talked about this $1,200 and $500 for their children who were under the age of 16. Well, I would say to you, don't even just count on that. Suppose you had taken that $500 per child and put it into some account in a trust for them. And then also get $1,000 credit for every child when you do your taxes. So how about if you've got that money and you put that on top of it every year? You think you could give your child something? And one other thing that I want to say to you is there's a few things you have to do. Do not put your child as the beneficiary on any of your accounts and any of your retirement accounts. Do not. And the reason why is that God forbid something happens to you, then what will happen is that money will have to be put in trust for them through the courts, and the courts will be watching, and they usually put it in a bank. And we've already talked about the banks and the type of interest they receive. Don't do that. If you set up a trust, and it can be a simple trust, a living trust that will guide, and then if you have minor children, you need to anyway have a guardian established who's going to take care of your child. You don't want anybody fighting over a child. And also the key is that people fight over children with money more than they do children who don't have any money. I know we love children, but it makes it a lot easier if they have some money with them. And if that's the case, then you need to speak if something should happen to you. And if you and your spouse are traveling together and something happens, you want it so that the children will be taken care of, your children. And so you want it where money is available. You need to set up trustees to those accounts, because everybody who is good with money is not necessarily good with children. And everybody who's good with children is not necessarily good with money. So you need to set it up so that they will be taken care of and that there's a checks and balance system. And also you might need to put together more than one trustee. You might need a successor trustee just in case that trustee is not available or something has happened to them. So that's just words of wisdom of preparing for the future. And that's what we talk about when it comes to financial literacy and to financial services and your financial plan, which is so important. So again, I offered the book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. Put this up here. Yep. And if you want the book, all you have to do is send an email to Anaj Enterprises Inc. at gmail.com. If you have any questions now, I got just a couple of minutes. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I'm hoping that you are enjoying this presentation. And those of you who I'm looking at, see one of my old classmates from grammar school, Teresa Glenn is watching. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Janice. She's really enjoying this. I hope you're getting something out of it. Yes. And Arlene, miss you much. Arlene Guy, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that people react. And then also tell a friend, share it. We keep on Access Wealth Nation all of the shows, and it's also broadcast through Roku on Soul City Broadcasting TV. And also, we also have an audio on the radio every Thursday at 6 o'clock. There's a show, repeat from this show on WHCR 90.3 FM. And I'm hoping that this will continue on and on and on. I know it will. My passion is to make sure that you all of you become financially literate. And so again, I hope you learned something, and so share it. And so if we don't have any other questions, are we good? Okay. And so you all have a good night. You stay safe, because this is so important. This is a time of much change in this world, and you are also the most important in this world, because you all make a contribution to it. So thank you again for watching. And again, remember, Access Wealth Nation for all your the key to financial needs and information, your financial freedom. Have a good night.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is magic.